Localio here, and today we're going to talk Subarus. We're going to disassemble, well, we already disassembled it, but we're going to show all the parts. We're going to show the cylinder head. We're going to show everything out of Daron's 700 horsepower Pocket Port R head that we did for him years ago. Now, this car was his daily driver. He was going to school. He was beating the crap out of it for 40,000 miles. And it's back here for a full upgrade. He's going to do a full port. We're going to upgrade all the parts because he wants to make 900. So take a look. Make sure you comment below. Let us know you've been here. And don't forget to subscribe. Alright, so let's take a look at the cylinder head first. I'm going to explain what we did to it. The first time it was around, we did our Pocket Port R package, which is EJ-3. In the EJ-3, we port the area underneath the valve seat, that's the pocket port, and the short side radius on intake and exhaust, and we do the combustion chamber. The combustion chamber adds so you could run a little bit more timing, you get a little away from detonation, and so you can lower your EGTs, and it's really a great addition if you're running pump gas. We also did our EJ-13 package, which is a GSC Beehive spring kit and GSC intake and exhaust valves, stock size. And we paired that with a GSC S2 camshaft. Alright, so first we're going to discuss the camshafts. The camshafts are the first thing to come off, and they tell a huge story about what you might find underneath of them. So the camshafts look in really good shape. It ran for 40,000 miles. This is the billet GSC S2 camshaft. You can see they barely look used. There is some scuffing here, but nothing major. You can't even really feel this with your finger. The lobes look great. You can see here the lobes look awesome. This is the intake cams. Both of them look great. It's 40,000 miles, totally ready to put back in. Now, on this camshaft, on the exhaust, they tell a little bit of a story on the lobe. Now, as you can see here, you can see that, there's a little bit of discoloration where it gets a little shiny on the base circle of the lobe. Now, what this is telling us is that there was some lash issue, that the lash started to tighten up. We see that, like, this side, there is no discoloration. They look perfect. They looked exactly the way they were coated from GSC. And on this one, well, actually you see like a little bit of a line here, just very slight. This one's very slight, and then this one, it's shiny. Now that shininess, although you can't feel it with your finger, it didn't hurt the camshaft. It does tell us that there was a lash issue and that the lash started closing up, and there should be a clearance there. The clearance is always on the base circle of the cam, which is from here to here, basically. So it's on the bottom side of the camshaft. So if the bucket's riding this, then we know there's an issue. Now, when you see having issues on this side of the lobe, you can see here how the lobe is getting tagged all the way up into the acceleration side. Now, it doesn't show any damage where we would say we need to replace these, but it does give us something to look for when we start inspecting the buckets. Alright, so these are the buckets. We got, these sets look great, right? So we have 7 that look awesome. They don't have really any marks on them at all. There's a little bit of discoloration on a couple of them, but nothing too bad. Totally reusable. You know, even that one, like, you can't feel anything with your finger, so that's usually the rule of thumb, is to make sure that you can't feel anything with your finger. Now on these, totally different story. Now you remember we talked about how the lash was tightening up on the one cam, or both cams, and now you can see it. Trying to make it so you can see it. See here in the center, it is basically machining itself into the bucket. So the camshaft or the bucket would be riding on the base circle of the camshaft, kind of like so, and it's just going to machine itself into the bucket. So that was definitely a lash issue. Why was there a lash issue? We don't know. We do know that it exceeded the film strength of the oil, and it created a, starting to create a failure in the bucket. Alright, so let's take a look at the valves. Valves are going to tell us what could be going on in the valve train other than the bucket, right? So if you look at the 45-degree angle here, you'll see a little bit of an indentation. Now that indentation could be a few things. On the tip of the valve, usually we will see marks on it. If it was valve float, this could be just wear from just driving the crap out of this thing. I mean, it made a bunch of power. So, but this wood, because it has an indentation, now we are going to lose spring pressure, and it's also going to tighten up lash, which is the problem we had, right? So we see it here. We know that this was absolutely a problem. You also see it on the exhaust valve. The exhaust valve is kind of rounded on the 45. I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of rounded on the 45. It's pretty beat up. There was a ton of oil. The car was definitely not running right. The engine was on its last leg. Daron really likes to beat the crap out of his cars, as he should. That's why we build them, right? So now let's take a look at the head and see what else we can find. Alright, so let's do some inspection on the cores, see what we got going on here, make sure that they're reusable. Now, we got a Goodson straight edge. What that means is this edge is very straight. We stick it on the head, make sure it's straight. Now, that's a 2000s feeler. 3 doesn't fit. 3 doesn't fit. 3 barely fits there. So we can tell that although there is a little bit of play here, it's really, it's within spec. I mean, this thing would probably definitely seal with a good gasket on it, with some head studs. But I did see here in the corner, you can see right here how it started to blow the head gasket. You can see a line that goes right here, and then all of this is from the gasket blowing or pushing into the water jacket. On this side, how it's starting to blow on the corners here and in the middle. In the middle, now we definitely had to clean some of this up just to put the straight edge on it, just to make sure it was okay, but I see some issue that was starting to happen, although it actually did not blow a head gasket. It was still drivable. Now let's take a look at the valve seat, because we were looking at the valves. We saw some damage in the valve. The valve seat's surely going to be damaged from that. Let's take a look at the valve seats. The valve seats, you can see this is the 45-degree angle that the valve will seat on, and they're very shiny. They're very shiny because most likely there were rubbing going on, and we've seen that in the valve, how the valve was indenting into this, which means it wasn't hitting solid. We didn't use a radius. We never use radiuses. And on the exhaust side, you could really see how, I don't know if you can see actually, but the exhaust seat is now round. It's not an angle anymore. It's completely round, and that was very apparent when we checked out the valve, that the valve was beat into the seat. And it said he saw 40,000 miles. I mean, you have to expect some kind of wear out of it. It's not going to be perfect. So when the valve starts beating in the seat like that, will it seal? Yes. Will it still make power? Yes. On a leak down, would it show? Maybe like a little bit. It'll still make power. It's just not going to make as much power as it could, because the valve seats are just totally beat in to the valve, and it's not optimum. If you want optimum, you really need to do a valve job or something like that. It's not something you're just going to be able to lap in, and definitely something you need to look out for. Flip the head over and we take a look at the cam journals. The cam journals, the bucket holes, everything looks really, really good. You can see the cam journals have almost no wear in them. There's a little marks here and there, but there's really nothing to speak of in terms of damage or anything going on that's a little crazy that we couldn't reuse the heads. Everything looks very, very good. If you look at the cam caps here as well, everything looks great on the cam caps. There's a little bit of scuffing going on this one, but nothing to worry about. The cam spun free. It looked great, and you can't even feel this thing with your finger. It's just like a mark in the cam journal. I would not worry about that whatsoever. There's one right here. I see a little bit of scuffing, but nothing really, nothing crazy. So that does it for the cores. The cores look great, totally reusable. Now, last but not least, let's go check out the valve spring. All right, so it's a little loud out here. I hope you guys can hear me. We're going to check out the springs on our Buxton spring tester. So we're going to set the install height. This is actually in the head. It's 1363. Enter valve lift. Now we're just going to do the intake side, which is the biggest. It's 0.425. Enter. Put the valve spring in there. Press the magic button. Now we have 87 pounds on the seat. 229 open. Now open pressure is the valve lift, and we're 128 thousandths away from coil bind. When you go to the information that they provide on the website, we are right within spec. We're 87 pounds. They are 81 pounds at the install height. Now the 230 open at 910, if we took the 1.363 minus the 910, we're at 453 lift. Now we are only at 425 lift, so you can tell that that's why there's a difference in open pressure. The spring is good, it's reusable, but it's not going to be reusable in this application because it does not make enough spring pressure to have 900 horsepower. It just valve floats the life away. And they also switched from a 08 wire that this spring was to a round wire. Although it's better, it's still just not enough. GSC offers a great conical spring kit that we have in our EJ-12 package, I think it is, that would totally fit this bill. So that concludes our inspection and teardown of Daron's Subaru heads. I sure hope you enjoyed some of the technical information. When you guys are in your garages at home and you're putting cams in and springs in, maybe you'll take some of this information and use it for your own inspections. Be sure to like and subscribe. Comment below so you can see some more of these videos. Till next time.